I will call this meeting to order. This is the regular City Council meeting. It's just after 6 p.m. on Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. And may I please have a roll call?
Yes, I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Hubbard. I see Councilmember Hubbard is present. Councilmember Mosca.
Present.
Present. Councilmember Kranz.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Hinsey.
Present.
And Mayor Blakespear.
Present.
Record will show all members of the City Council are present.
Okay, great, thank you. Now I'm going to ask Councilmember Kranz to lead us in the pledge.
All right, if you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United
States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And I'm actually going to ask if the deputy mayor would be able to do these two presentations.
Sure.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor. I don't think we can hear you.
You can't hear me?
Oh, it was really light for me, but here.
I would be happy to. Let me pull them up quickly.
Or why don't I do one and then you do one?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll do the one that's a presentation to Richard Stern and includes Mike Thornton. So this is the winner of the Excellence in Environmental Stewardship Nonprofit Organization Award. And the category is it's for the Encinitas Ranch Community Association for its work in creating one of the county's largest recycled water projects. That's 13.7 million gallons of water per day for upgrading their irrigation system to state-of-the-art automation and sensor technology, and for working with their landscape contractor to convert to battery-powered landscape maintenance equipment. So accepting this award will be Richard P. Stern, president of the Encinitas Ranch Community Association. And I also see Mike Thornton here as well to accept the award. And I'll just say a little bit more about this project, unless you would like to say a little bit more about it, Mr. Stern.
Well, thanks very much, Catherine, and to all your other council members that are here present tonight. But on behalf of the 500 homeowners in Encinitas Ranch, I'm honored to accept this award. The effort that went into these projects reflects a deep and overt commitment to making Encinitas Ranch not only a great place to live, but also to build a sustainable and environmentally conscious community. All these projects required strong communications and collaboration. And I'd like to recognize that the key team members, the San Elijo Joint Powers Authority, the City of Encinitas, the San Dieguito Water District, Brightview Landscaping, the Encinitas Ranch Golf Course, and Fox Point Farms. Mike Thornton, the general manager of the San Elijo Joint Powers Authority, was our key partner on the Recycle Water Project. Mike and I began our work in the summer of 2015, and we formed a great relationship and bond over the next 4 years. I want to personally thank him and his staff for their support, their dedication, and perseverance. Thank you.
And Mike, would you like to say anything?
Yes, Madam Mayor. It was a great honor to work with Dick Stern and his consultants, the contractors, San Dieguito Water District, who's our partner in the Recycle Water Program, also the California Department of Water Resources, which we received a $600,000 grant to help build the infrastructure to get the recycled water to the Encinitas Community Association. And like Dick said, it was a great team effort. We did hit challenges along the way, and the team worked with great professionalism and partnership to work through those challenges and to successfully complete this project, which we are really proud. And again, sometimes those tenacious, grinding through those challenges really builds those powerful relationships that last time. So just be glad to be part of the team and thank Dick Stearns for all his work and dedication.
Well, thank you very much. And I just want to say thank you to both of you, because this is really in line with our climate action goals and our city's commitment to environmental improvements and saving water and reusing water. And this type of a project is big, so it can make a big effect. And I know it takes energy, and you're pushing the ball up the hill in order to change something from what it used to be. So I just really want to recognize you for putting in the energy to do that and caring about this and making it a reality in our city. So you're well deserved as the recipient this year, and congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Okay, well, now we'll move on, and the deputy mayor can deliver the second one.
I'm quite honored to be able to deliver this award because I was lucky enough to be in attendance at the ribbon cutting when you first opened. So this award is being presented to the winner of the Excellence in Environmental Stewardship for Non-for-Profit Business Award, and it's being presented to Shangwen Kennedy for the Inn at Moonlight Beach. And this is the first hotel in the world to receive the prestigious WELL certification at the platinum level, which is the highest level. And the inn filters air and water to its highest levels. The materials are reused and sustainable. A biodynamic urban farm generates its own compost and provides guests local food. The site has been remediated and the soil is amended to prevent stormwater runoff and soil erosion. Accepting the award this evening is Shangwen Kennedy, who is the owner of the Inn at Moonlight Beach. So congratulations, Shangwen. Would you like to say anything about the award you're receiving tonight?
Thank you so much for your acknowledgement. And I do want to make sure my husband is acknowledged as well. It definitely wouldn't happen without his support. Getting this project to realization. And it was to our surprise being acknowledged by the city. And I just want to thank everyone, thank to the city of Encinitas for making an effort to acknowledge work like this and it really encourage us to share what we do more and also elevate and do more of work that is improving environment and could passively improve people's health and well-being. I don't, Mike, do you have anything you want to add?
The only thing I want to add is that Encinitas is a city that attracts a particular kind of traveler and tourist, which is, which is someone who is conscious and conscientious and values this kind of sustainable approach to building and creating environments. And so I want to really acknowledge the city of Encinitas for creating a location where, where this type of pioneering business can exist and thrive. It's a real honor to be recognized this way.
Well, we're so happy that you've chosen Encinitas for the home of your inn and for your family. And I'll just add a couple more details because I have them here in front of me and I think they're worth sharing. So not only have you reached this highest level of award, but you're also creating an environment that passively promotes human health, meaning that guests feel better when they leave than when they arrived. Without having to consciously make the healthy choice, everything offered is the healthiest possible. The air and water are at their purest levels. The materials are sustainable. Your biodynamic farm is managed according to the cycle of the moon, and of course, free from pesticides. You offer over 50 vegetables, fruit, medicinal herbs, and teas that are grown and harvested on site, providing guests the ability to taste delicious and local food and drink that enhance their well-being. The teas are custom designed according to the season by an Ayurvedic consultant. I mentioned about the whole site's remediation. You also use compost that's generated on site, and the herbs and flowers that beautify the inn are also grown on site. They are offered to guests as a symbol of the inn's abundance. The continued use of the site and building as an inn rather than a private residence also offers a valued amenity for the community and connects guests from all over the world with the beauty of the region and everything that Encinitas has to offer. And having visited the site over a year ago, I can testify that all of that is accurate, and it's such a haven and an oasis of exactly the kind of business that we love to see in Encinitas. So thank you for joining us tonight, and congratulations on your award.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And I hope that people decide to do a staycation and come and visit. I want to go there right now. When I read the application and that material, it's just fantastic. And we're so grateful to have you in our city. So thank you.
We would love to have you.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you for the awardees, and we will move on to oral communications.
Yes, Mayor, we do have 4 oral communications, and they'll be asked to speak in this order: Becky Rapp, Fred Lara, Barbara Gordon, and then Peggy Walker. And each speaker will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Becky Rapp. I'm a parent to 3 teens and a member of a youth mentoring organization. With November quickly approaching and Measure H on the ballot regarding marijuana storefronts, I feel an urgency to take this opportunity to inform other parents and community members regarding the negative effects of marijuana use and the influence of marijuana advertising on teens. Bringing marijuana storefronts to our city is the first step towards normalizing commercializing the pot. So your no vote on Measure H will be important. It's important to remember that this ballot measure was the result of out-of-town paid signature gatherers, often using misinformation. According to National Monitoring the Future Survey, teen pot vaping is soaring, and the percentage of high school seniors who vape has doubled. California is number 43 in the nation for high school graduation and number 1 in pot use. We're also number 1 in vaping, number 3 in abuse of illicit drugs, and number 9 in suicide. As a parent, I recognize that since schools are shut down and youth are forced to stay home without any participation in sports and many other extracurricular activities, that young people can and do feel discouraged, overwhelmed, and possibly depressed. Is normalizing and commercializing marijuana a prudent health decision, or even a wise use of the city's staff time? Thank you.
Next is Fred Lara.
Fred Lara is not in the meeting.
We will move. We can move to Barbara Gordon.
Barbara Gordon is also not in the meeting.
How about Peggy Walker?
Hi, this is Peggy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Good evening, Council. And I'd like to say congratulations to those recipients on those healthy choice-related awards. And in line with that, and with the speaker who already mentioned Measure H, I'd just like to alert you, the Council, and Encinitas voters that this measure will allow businesses that will produce, distribute, and sell high-potency THC-laden vaping products. I urge residents to vote no on this measure because a Stanford School of Medicine report just released has warned that these products are unhealthy for the community, especially during COVID. The Stanford report shows that teen and young adult vapers are up to 7 times more likely to get COVID than non-vapers. And the report said vaping is putting a newly addicted generation of youth and young adults more at risk for severe COVID-related consequences, including hospitalization with failing lungs. The report also shows that vaping can alter the immune system, making each coronavirus exposure more likely to trigger infection. Moreover, aerosol emitted from vaping could have droplets containing coronavirus that can spread to other people or be re-inhaled into one's lungs. So with the COVID pandemic raging and more likely to get worse this fall, there's a strong reason not to allow the manufacture, distribution, and sale of harmful marijuana vape products in our city at this time. It's not too early to start thinking about the November election and the consequences of this ballot measure. Thank you very much.
And then did Fred Lara or Barbara Gordon join the meeting?
No, they have not.
Okay, then that concludes oral communications. And we can move to a report from closed session.
All right, Honorable Mayor and Council, I have a number of report outs. I'm going to begin with the number of special closed sessions before this evening. The first one is July 10th, closed session on Public Employment Authority. There was no reportable action following that closed session. Sorry. The next one is July 29th, City of Encinitas versus Department of Housing and Community Development, closed session conference with legal counsel. The council met with special counsel to discuss the status of this matter, and there was no reportable actions following that closed session. On August 3rd, the City Council met regarding Public Employment Authority, City Manager, no reportable actions following that closed session. Excuse me. On August 5th, the City Council met on conference with legal counsel, initiation of litigation relative to wireless facilities. My report out is that the council considered and approved by a 5-0 vote to join a coalition of municipalities seeking judicial review of further preemption of local siting authority over wireless facilities by a recent Federal Communication Commission declaratory ruling. The cost to join will be $3,500 with a not to exceed amount of $5,000. For tonight, the City Council met in closed session on 3 items. The first was conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation. The City Council met with legal counsel regarding a matter involving significant exposure to litigation, and there's no reportable action following that discussion. The second one is closed session conference with real property negotiator, price and terms on Zebra's management company negotiating with them. The council discussed the property negotiation with their city negotiator and gave direction. No reportable actions following that. The third item for tonight was conference with legal counsel, existing litigation on Walker versus the city of Encinitas. I want to note that Deputy Mayor Shay Hinsey recused herself as conflicted due to her relationship with the plaintiff. And that Council Member Joe Mosca was not present for any of the council closed session matters. He is for open session, obviously. Hi, Councilmember Mosca. The council met with special counsel to discuss the status of this matter, and there were no reportable actions following that. And that concludes my report out on tonight's closed session as well as the previous special closed sessions.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any changes to the posted agenda?
We have no changes to the posted agenda. And then moving to the consent calendar, we have 2 speakers on item E, and they've requested be pulled from the consent calendar.
Okay, I'll go ahead and move the remainder.
Second.
So that was Blakespear and Mosca.
Mosca, second.
Okay, and we will start voting with Councilmember Hubbard. Councilmember Hubbard?
Here. Aye.
Is that a yes? Okay.
Yes.
Councilmember Mosca?
Mosca, yes.
Councilmember Kranz?
Kranz, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hinsey?
Yes.
And Mayor Blakespear?
Blakespear, yes.
Motion carries unanimously. We can now move to item 8E.
Okay, let's go ahead and have the public comments.
Okay, we have 2 public comments. The first will be Jessica Carilli, followed by Susan Turney, and each speaker will have 3 minutes.
Okay, hi. This is Jessica Curley. I'm an environmental scientist and I study climate change. I am fully aware, therefore, of the importance of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but it is nonsensical to see a letter like this that supports a bill that is so clearly just a trick to hide yet another handout to developers by making it seem as though it's an environmentally friendly solution to replace parking spaces with bike parking. It is also embarrassing to see that you believe the reason people do not use bikes instead of cars in Encinitas is because of a lack of bike parking, which is also nonsensical. 84% of Encinitas households own at least 2 cars. Of course, we would love it if we didn't need to use cars, but that's the reality. If you do not provide places for people to park said cars, then it just becomes a nightmare. 32% of Encinitans are more than 55 years old and 6% are less than 5 years old. These people cannot also easily get around by bike. So it is not smart to just think that we can get out of this whole climate change situation by getting rid of cars immediately and replacing them with bikes. So thank you for considering this.
Next speaker is Susan Turney.
Hi, Kathy, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, Susan Turney, Encinitas City Council District 2 candidate. I oppose Encinitas' letter in support of AB 3153. This assembly bill would allow density bonus developers to reduce the number of parking spaces otherwise required of developers to provide. Who are you really representing by backing a bill that restricts local control over our own parking code? This bill will cause harm to neighborhoods that will suffer from the overflow parking and give developers yet another handout, something residents opposed twice in measures T and U. If the goal is to reduce car ownership in the belief that you will move people onto bicycles, then the law should do so directly. This bill would make sense only with a corresponding restriction on car ownership by the people who live in these housing units. Extra cars lining the streets will make it more, not less, dangerous for cyclists who must deal with the additional on-street parking. These are the very cyclists you say you want to accommodate and protect. The city's letter of support states, quote, "The lack of secure bike parking especially impacts low-income Californians, 1/3 of whom do not own a car," end quote. I would like to know how the council defines, quote, low income, end quote, in terms of car ownership. Is it the same low income metric as it is used for our so-called affordable housing? If so, anyone who cannot afford a car certainly cannot afford one of our affordable units. The letter also claims, quote, "Parking requirements drive up the cost of building housing and effectively subsidize motor vehicle use at a time when public resources and regulations should support alternatives to the automobile." Here, the council uses the BIA's plea of "it won't pencil out" as an excuse for reducing on-site parking. You complain all the time that your hands are tied by the state, yet with this bill, you're handing Sacramento more rope with which to do it. This bill is one of many that seeks to hand the reins of local control over to Sacramento. Why are you adding to that list? If elected to council, I would never support any bill that removed local control, no matter what the end goal. We must think and act beyond party agendas and do what's right for Encinitas. Thank you.
That does conclude speakers.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody on council have any comment?
I have a question about how it was that we came to send this support letter. Was it at the request of the senator, or how did we become aware of this?
Does staff want to answer that? I see Jeff Plageman is on the line, and Pat. There's Pat.
Hi. Yeah. This came through the League, California Cities.
Yeah. Okay. So the League is supporting this.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. The League is very supportive of local control. That's sort of their main platform, I would say. I mean, this bill is about bicycle parking, which it can be a real problem. I do believe that. And it's not practical for people to bring their bicycle upstairs to their apartment and have it inside. But it's also for car sharing spaces. So it's providing more flexibility for mobility, basically, the mobility options that are more than just a single occupancy vehicle. So are there any other comments from council? Okay, I'm going to go. Oh, Councilmember Hinsey, Deputy Mayor.
All I was going to add is that we hear often on council, or on Planning Commission, I've heard Commissioner Farrow say this in the past, that we are often building houses for cars. And I think that the land use policy that we want to pursue is one that our very precious very precious space that we're working with here in the city is not used to build houses for cars in the form of garages that might not make sense for the lifestyle that people move here to have. So, friends of mine that live at the Whole Foods site, they share one car, but then they need that extra space for their bikes and their other equipment that they have. So to me, it makes sense if we're having some more high density housing in Encinitas that we match the land use underlying that with the way that we plan to move around town. So I think the mayor, did you move approval of the letter?
Yes.
I will second that.
Mayor Blakespear?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I typed in the wrong bill. It wasn't the League, it was the San Diego Bike Coalition. I apologize for that mistake. I put in the wrong assembly bill number.
Okay.
It's supported by the San Diego Bike Coalition.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Yes, so we can start voting. Councilmember Hubbard?
I had something I wanted to say first. I totally support this. Yes, you look at the higher density developments that we're doing, and if you don't have a place for bikes to be stored, you've got smaller units, you've got electric bikes, you've got people living upstairs, it would be impossible to carry them up. And if you've ever been to any of the cities or countries where there are a lot of bikes, you start realizing that bike parking is every bit as important as car parking. And if people haven't noticed, we have more and more bikes around Encinitas already, and I fully support this. I think it's an important thing. Doesn't mean we're gonna replace cars for everyone, but you need to have safe places for bikes, and they can't be in everybody's units. I support it.
I'd like to comment that I'm going to support it, but I also want to accelerate the conversation about what to do regarding spillover parking in these, we're having projects that are being built, multifamily units. Many of them are being built under density bonus rules. The housing element had reduced parking requirements. All of these projects, we need to figure out a way to protect the surrounding neighborhoods to keep people from spilling over into their neighborhoods for parking purposes. I think one of the premises of the reduced parking is that the people who live there will have fewer cars, and because there isn't a place to park. But if we're making it possible for them to park in other people's neighborhoods, then it won't be successful. So I'd like to have the opportunity to put on the agenda some alternatives for whether it's permit parking in the vicinity of some of these projects or what. It's necessary to start considering how to resolve that particular issue.
Okay,
I have one comment as well, which is I'll support this, but I do think that it's a fair point that a couple of the speakers made in terms of we should at the local level be putting together policy that we think makes most amount of sense for our city. So I was a bit surprised that the league would support this legislation, and the fact that they're actually not. And the reason why is not because the legislation is a bad piece of legislation, but again, setting policy like this at the state level, we should push back, and it should be refrained upon. And we should be creating policy like this at the local level that makes sense for us. I do think that policy like this does make sense for our city, creating more flexibility within the code to allow for other opportunities other than motor vehicles, especially when you look at some of these higher density projects. We don't want to have 200 cars parked for some of these housing units. And so we definitely want to look at creating policy for ourselves that really does allow that flexibility. But the state, when they act, sometimes it's hard for 480 cities to get it right. And so I'll support this, but I think it is a fair point that the state ought not be making this kind of policy, and it should be at the local level.
Okay, great. Thank you. So if the city clerk could call.
Ready to vote? Okay, Councilmember Hubbard?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosca?
Mosca, yes.
Councilmember Kranz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hinsey?
Yes.
And Mayor Blakespear?
Yes.
And motion does carry unanimously. And that does conclude the consent calendar.
Okay, then let's move to the action item, which is approve project management plan amendment and funding for the El Portal bike and pedestrian undercrossing. And the contact person is Principal Engineer Bankston. So if we could have a staff report, that would be great.
Certainly, give me 1 minute to get everything up and running.
And Mayor, while she's getting ready, just to let you know, we do have one speaker.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Blakespear and council members. My name is Jill Bankston. I'm the city's principal engineer over the capital improvement program. I'm pleased to be here tonight to present to you the El Portal undercrossing item. Design is complete, the project has been advertised, and we're excited to be ready to start construction. This morning, you were sent an amendment to the agenda item that replaces sheet 2 of the staff report. So quickly, I wanted to go over that amendment to make sure it's clear what we were doing. So the old staff report had a clerical error that inadvertently added additional funding into the city's pre-construction costs and the total project. Hold on, we're getting some feedback. Are we okay to proceed, Rashid?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the amendment corrects the amounts shown in the staff report to the accurate numbers, and it doesn't result in any changes to the staff recommendations as a result of this correction. It reduces the total project cost. Okay. So this slide summarizes the 4 recommendations in the staff report. We're requesting your authorization of an amendment to the El Portal project management plan.
Excuse me, sorry, Jill. I don't think it's moving forward with the PowerPoint. So we were just still on the first one. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the first recommendation is an amendment to the El Portal project management plan, which dictates the funding roles and responsibilities for the construction phase of this project. And it's an agreement with SAMDAG and NCPD. Also, the adoption of a budget resolution to allocate $1.45 million to the El Portal undercrossing project. Your direction to transfer $2.2 million to SAMDAG this fiscal year, and your direction to pay Sandag up to an additional $963 next fiscal year if necessary. Okay. So this graphic shows you a plan view and a cross-section of the proposed undercrossing. You can see it includes ramps and pathways to the east, connecting to a roadway crossing of Vulcan Avenue adjacent to Paul Ecke Central Elementary School, and then ramps and stairs and connections to North Coast Highway 101 on the west side. This project will provide a safe rail corridor crossing between the elementary school and the predominantly residential areas to the east of the rail corridor, and the residences, businesses, and the beach to the west of the rail corridor. As you can see in the photos to the left, that is a picture of the construction of the Santa Fe or Swannies undercrossing. And our El Portal undercrossing will be substantially similar. It will be a 3-span bridge similar to this with ramp connections on both sides. The graphic on the right is a rendering of what the El Portal undercrossing will look like where it joins with the Leucadia Streetscape project. So you can see the concrete apron of the roundabout in the center left of the picture and the dedicated bike lane in the center bottom. So as you know, trains run every day on the Low Sands corridor. So there are distinct periods of time, however, throughout the year where there are no trains on the tracks, and these are called absolute work windows. So absolute work windows provide 27.5 hours where there are no trains traveling along the corridor. They last from 12:30 a.m. to 4 a.m. the following day. So only during these AWWs can we remove the tracks, put in something big like this bridge here, and then replace the tracks in time for the next train to come through. AWWs are set 12 months in advance and they aren't flexible. So it's imperative that contractors make sure that they plan their work within the rail corridor to align with these AWWs. So the key to keeping a major rail undercrossing project on schedule and within budget is to hit your scheduled AWWs. So once the project is complete, it will provide a safe crossing of the rail corridor similar to the Santa Fe Swannies undercrossing shown here, along with landscape ramps for pedestrians and cyclists and connections to the adjacent roadways. The recommendation before you today seeks the additional funding needed to fully fund the construction phase of the El Portal undercrossing. Our estimated construction cost before bids opened was $8.937 million. You can see that in the center column, the third row from the bottom. It anticipated a low bid of $5.367 million, which you can see 3 lines above that or 3 figures above that construction subtotal. However, when we opened our bids on July 14th, we had an apparent low bid of $6.7 million. After bids were opened, it became clear that additional funding was needed for the construction contract, for Sandag's costs to administer the construction phase, and for ancillary NCTD costs and railroad flagging costs. The new total construction phase cost is $12.1 million, which you can see in the far right column, third row from the bottom. To date, we've transferred $8.135 million in city funding to Sandag, and we've transferred our ATP grant of $3.802 million over to Sandag, for a total of $8.937 million. So as you can see, Sandag requires additional funding to construct the El Portal undercrossing. So once again, here are the recommendations from today's staff report. We're requesting your approval to authorize an amendment on the El Portal project management plan that updates construction phase costs based on the low bid and updated construction support costs. The second request is to adopt a budget resolution to allocate an additional $1.45 million to the El Portal undercrossing project this year. Next, we're seeking your direction to transfer $2.2 million to Sandag this year to allow them to award the construction contract and fund the ancillary construction costs for this year. Finally, we're asking you to direct staff to pay Sandag's additional ancillary construction costs in fiscal year 21-22 if needed. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to the public comment.
Okay, we do have one speaker, and it is Judy Burlfine.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I'm fully in support of this project. It's wonderful. We've had an underpass at Santa Fe for 7 years, and it's been amazing for everyone. And I'm excited to see this go forward. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Judy. I see that there's another person in there. Kevin Doyle, is he scheduled to speak here?
No, he did not register to speak.
Okay. Okay. Then I will go to any comments from council. I see Councilmember Crayons with your hand up.
Yes, thank you. This project has been quite a undertaking and has been a long process that has had many ups and downs. And I have to admit that when the bids were open and we got the numbers, that was kind of a downer. And I spent a lot of time contemplating whether this economic environment was the right time to be spending this much money. And I came to the conclusion that the transformational nature of this particular facility, allowing people on the east side of the railroad corridor to get to the west side, either the beach or the 101 in a safe and legal way, will make a huge difference on the community. It also means students that live on the west side of the 101 that attend Paul Eckie Central School will no longer have to use the Leucadia Boulevard or Encinitas Boulevard intersections to walk to school. So it will encourage people to get out of their cars and get to school in by foot. And so as new owners of an electric bike, I'm finding myself navigating the Leucadia Boulevard intersection a lot. And I know that when this facility is complete, I will no longer be required to do that if I'm interested in going to the beach or going downtown. And for people who are interested in getting out of their cars, this is going to be a critical piece of infrastructure. So, one of the things that I was concerned about was whether the cost of this project was essentially in line with previous, I know that the undercrossing at Santa Fe was significantly less. And I have been at Sandag meetings where there was the Caltrans cost of construction index was a part of the presentations. And I don't know if we have that PowerPoint slide available, but it does show that since the Santa Fe undercrossing was built, there has been almost a doubling of construction costs. So I do have that PowerPoint slide if anybody is interested in seeing it on the screen. But so I was able to get a comfort around the work that Sandag did to analyze these bids. The fact of the matter is that construction in an active railroad corridor is expensive. And for those reasons, the cost, I think it ended up where they are today. And in spite of the fact that it's a real challenge to come up with that kind of money, we are able to do that, I think, responsibly in a fiscally sound way. And therefore, I'm going to support this, and I would move staff recommendations.
Okay.
I'll second the motion. I just have a question whenever it's appropriate, Madam Mayor.
Yes, it's appropriate.
Question is regarding the amount of grants. We've received a number of grants on this project, and I just wanted to have an opportunity to explore that again. I don't know if staff has that handy, but if they can just talk a little bit about the overall project cost and how much was paid for by us locally and how much was paid for by grants that we've sought and received.
Certainly. On this project, we were able to secure an ATP grant for $3.802 million. So the city contribution is a little bit over $10 million. I know on the Santa Fe undercrossing, we got a couple additional funding sources, but on this one, the ATP grant is our sole external funding source.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
So just right before the meeting, we received public comment from a neighbor who is concerned about the flooding and the drainage in the project area. Would somebody on staff be able to address that concern, and if there's a threat that the project will flood, and maybe just some of the water concerns that we're up against in this stretch here?
Sure, I saw the comment, and his concern was that there would be a lot of water at the low point of the undercrossing. This El Portal project includes a sump pump at the low spot, and it pumps the water up to a detention basin where the stormwater will be treated before it is outlet to the roadway drainage systems. We do have a Leucadia watershed project where we're looking at implementing kind of bigger picture solutions to the overall problems with flooding and drainage in the Leucadia area, but they aren't part of this project. We're looking to consider those in future projects, including the Leucadia Streetscape project.
Okay, thank you. Is there any timeline of when those results will be available to help us make decisions for the adjacent Leucadia Streetscape project?
So do you mean, so I'm not sure I understand your question. Could you please repeat it?
So the watershed study that we're in progress with, is there any timeline in the next couple of months when we'll have those results for future projects?
Lillian, you looked like you were going to talk. Do you have that information?
Madam Mayor, may I answer, Deputy Mayor Hinson?
Absolutely.
So we do have a project that is in the works to evaluate the entire watershed. We are not anticipating that the findings of that study will be ready to be shared until the winter timeframe, just because it is a very complicated study, and we want to make sure that we understand not only the construction aspect, but also what the impacts of the project would be.
I see. Okay, thank you, Lillian. Yes, I am really excited today that we're here having this. I think it's a historic vote. I was one of those students who wished that I could just go less than a mile from my house to Pawlecky Central, where I attended school and where my mom taught. But unfortunately, I had to go to Pacific View, which was 2 miles from my house, and get on a bus, which took 40 minutes to take me to school. And so it just really didn't make sense. And I think the longer that we see how this corridor actually functions, the more severe our circulation issues are for autos and for just anybody attempting to move about. So my great hope is that not only will this project make it possible for people to move about freely, for people like my mom who use a wheelchair to get around, to be able to access the elementary school where she loved to volunteer and taught for 30 years, but also for people going to the beach, the farmer's market, and it's just a very logical, common sense infrastructure project that is going to alleviate, I believe, so much of the congestion and circulation issues that we have in Leucadia. So I didn't get the honor of making the motion or making the second, but I'm just thrilled to be here today. And I'm just so grateful that this is a project that is going to be able to continue, even though we are facing so many different challenges at this moment in time. So I reached out to a lot of people who, I've been part of this project for 7 years during my time at the Main Street. And so a lot of those folks who are invested in this project, I circled back with them and I said, the project costs have gone up. Is this still something that you'd like to pursue? And 100% consensus across the board that this was still a valuable project to so many of the stakeholders surrounding it. So I feel very confident that even though it's expensive, that it's worthwhile.
Okay, well, thank you for those comments from my council colleagues. I also completely support this project. I also felt alarmed when I initially saw the costs, but I did a deep dive into the finances, as I think some of my colleagues did, to make sure that I felt comfortable with them. And in many ways, the reality is that construction is really expensive. And it's particularly expensive when you're doing it in an active rail corridor. And so we need to do this project. It's a key part of our mobility improvements and our commitments to our community. And I'm excited to get it finished. I'm excited to get it started and then to get it finished 2 years later. And I still look forward to building more ways to cross the railroad tracks to reconnect our communities on either side of the railroad tracks. So this project, I think, would only get more expensive if we tried to put it off, and it remains a key part of our transportation improvements. So I will support it, and I'm excited. I don't know who the second was, but if there wasn't a second, let's give it to the deputy mayor.
I will. I did second it, but I jumped at it and I shouldn't have, and so I will release my second, and Kelly can be the second on that.
Thank you, Councilmember Mosca.
Oh, you're welcome.
The motion.
And I think Councilmember Kranz has his hand up again. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to add a couple more quick comments. One is that the idea of postponing the construction because of the cost is complicated by the fact that we did get a grant from the California Transportation Commission, and that would complicate things. That money does need to be spent. It's millions of dollars. I think it's 4 point something or other, isn't it? But the other thing that I wanted to say is that it caused me to reflect on having been elected right about the time that they cut the ribbon on the Santa Fe Drive undercrossing. And I said to city staff at the time, okay, let's get the next one queued up, and we need to build another one. And I was told that we needed to take some time to savor the success of the first project before we got too busy with trying to do a second one. And it's crazy that it's almost 8 years of processing this stuff. And these big projects are just there are so many moving parts. Approval from the CPUC, approval from SANDAG, approval from NCTD. The bureaucracy is very challenging. I expect that the result of all of that will be a top-notch project that will, leave a legacy of enhanced mobility for people on bikes and pedestrians. So I'm looking forward to getting this project done.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and vote on it.
Councilmember Hubbard?
I say yes, and I think it's going to be life-changing for the residents there.
Councilmember Mosca?
Mosca, yes.
Councilmember Kranz?
Kranz, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hinsey?
Yes.
And Mayor Blakespear?
Blakespear, yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Yay.
Awesome.
Okay, so now we have informational items. We don't have any council member items. Does anybody want to do a council member report? Councilmember Mosca?
It's more of a statement than a report. And the statement is that I think that we forgot something today. Do you know what we forgot? Our tradition that after we come back from summer recess, that we actually have our Hawaiian gear on. I know with COVID, perhaps nobody went to Hawaii. Hopefully nobody did. But maybe next meeting we can have our Hawaiian gear on just to get in the spirit of coming back after summer recess.
Okay, that's what we're doing next meeting.
And Ed Wimmer had his going today.
He did. Okay, well, that's good. You reminded us of that. Yes, nobody went to Hawaii, but it's almost Hawaii here, right? So we can wear our Hawaiian shirts. Okay, any council member reports that anybody would like to do? Okay, city manager report?
No.
City attorney report?
I would like to report that on the matter of the easement related to the Cummins parcel, Kevin and R.D. Cummins did recently sign that easement. So we are moving forward with a project that is much less expensive. So I'm looking forward to seeing a staff report soon with the bidding for that particular project.
Congratulations. I'm thrilled to hear that. And you did some great work there, Councilmember Kranz.
Thank you. Everybody did, the staff, and city attorney's office And ultimately, it was, I think, a generous decision by the Commons, and I think they're looking forward to being able to move on.
Great. Excellent.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Okay, city attorney report? No?
No, we're good. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, well, we are adjourned.